Spirit Switchboard, airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3, New Orleans. Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I am your host, Carrie-Lynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. Today, I have Lucky Paranormal joining me on Spirit Switchboard. Lucky Paranormal stands out as an all-female paranormal team based in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. Their team operates with a high level of professionalism and expertise, aiming to assist individuals in understanding paranormal experiences, occurrences, and strange phenomena using the state-of-the-art investigative tools. Over time, Lucky Paranormal has delved into numerous historically significant sites within Thunder Bay and its adjacent regions, and have even ventured across the United States for investigations. As part of their mission, they take great satisfaction in not only highlighting the scenic beauty of the northern region, but also in unraveling the mysteries that shroud the area in the realm of the paranormal. So we have Leann, Gail, and Mel joining us today.
Hello.
Hello.
Bonjour. How are you?
Hi. This was so exciting. I know that I sprung this on you guys at the last minute, so I appreciate you agreeing to come on, because I know it kind of felt last minute. I am a Northern Ontario girl too, so when I saw that it was an all-female Northern Ontario team, I'm like, bring it on. Let's chat.
We're here. We're
Yeah.
here.
Thank you. I'm excited. The whole northern shore, like between Sault Ste. Marie and Thunder Bay, is like my favorite place on the planet. It's rugged and beautiful and powerful and magical and mystical. There's just layers and layers to it. It's spiritually, the Indigenous history, paranormals, like there's so much to talk about.
Yes.
We're here to talk about it. We love talking about it.
Tell me how. I would love each for you to start and just tell me, what kind of kid you were. Was all of this part of your world as a kid? How did it start for you individually and then come together as a team?
Who's going?
I'll go because I'm
And introduce yourself too.
My name is Mel. I started in the paranormal 20-something years ago. A couple friends, and we'd go out and do a little bit. Then I stopped doing it. And then a couple years ago, my mom passed away. And I thought there's more to life than just this. And so I started reading about it. And then I met Leann. And you can go next.
Here we are. Paranormal's been part of my life for, I think my first experience as a kid, I was probably, I'm going to say 11. And I was sleeping in my bedroom with my cousins, and I looked up and I seen two soldiers standing behind my bedroom door. And it was interesting because we all seen it.
Did you grow up in Thunder Bay?
I did grow up in Thunder Bay. I still don't know who these spirits were of these soldiers. I would love to find out the history of because I can still describe them exactly how they looked. So growing up, I was able to see things. And I remember always thinking something's a little different with me. Like, why am I able to see and no one's seen this? But I also grew up reading like Ed and Lorraine Warren books. At 8 years old, I was already reading those when other people were reading their kids' books. That's what I was reading.
Did you read them? Do you have siblings?
Yes.
Did you read it to your siblings? Because my sister is always telling everybody how I read her stuff like that and traumatized her as a child.
It probably did traumatize some of my family because I was more towards the darker end of it versus talking about spirits. I was talking about incubus and succubus, and I'm like, guess what that is? But you know what? I grew up in a family where they were so supportive of me, and they never made me feel like I was different than anybody. So the paranormal for me, I've been learning about this stuff since as far back as I can remember. And then I started doing paranormal investigating, and I met Mel, and that's when Lucky Paranormal started. And then Gail came on board.
Yeah, I came on board mainly because Mel was involved in doing paranormal investigations, and then because we're married, and when she was telling me she was going out with strangers, in a dark cemetery late at night, I said, you know what? I'm going to join you. Well, like, what are you doing? And I'm going to join you and film. So I started filming them. But,
brilliant.
Yeah, but growing up, I mean, my grandparents had a haunted house, and I always felt like there was spirits in there. And I remember my grandmother telling me about some of the renovations while they were doing renovations of the house. She experienced a lot of paranormal activity there. Right. And I sort of kind of kept that to myself. And just recently, my father kind of confirmed it. And, that, when he was a boy growing up in that house, he had experiences as well.
Interesting, right? Like that generation keeping those secrets until later in life and then showing that they had this, because it's much more acceptable now, a little more normal. And that was a big part for me. I always call it coming out of the witchy boo closet, right? Like coming out of that witchy boo closet when my kids were younger. My oldest is 30 now. So when they were younger, they were having experiences the same as I did as a kid. And not that my family wasn't supportive, but just we definitely had not healthy communication skills, I think was a fair way to put it, right? So wanting my kids to have a different experience with it being, and understanding it can be normal, that it's our normal, because we're all extra sensitive, right? To those. Gail, was your grandparents' house in Thunder Bay, like in the Thunder Bay area? Where was your family?
So I was born in Milton, and so that house is in Milton. Yeah, I moved up here, and when I met Mel and stayed, so I stayed here for love.
Aww, cute.
That's pretty syrupy sweet.
Yeah.
They are very sweet.
On live TV, even.
Relationship goals are these two right here.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I'm in Guelph currently. I'm in Guelph. And I tell people that I've been in Guelph as a pit stop, but it's been like 23 years. It's not a bad pit stop, especially when you're coming from Northern Ontario, because it doesn't feel overwhelmingly big. It has that small town feel to it, right? So
trees. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still not the same though. I mean, you hit that point on 69 highway before you get to 17 and the trees start to change, the rock formation changes. And even, my older kids, I'll say that feels like home when we hit that spot, and it feels more like we're at home. And I know when I come up, I was just up last weekend actually for a family wedding in the Sault Ste. Marie. And I always drag whichever kid has gone with me up past the Sioux, usually at least as far as Catherine Cove, like going up almost as far as Wawa. And then we just don't tell family that we're there yet, so that we have one day. Yeah, at least one day along Superior, right? Nice. Yeah. So tell me about Lucky Paranormal, how you formed it, kind of some of the investigations that you've been doing, how long you've been together.
We started about a year and a half ago. Leann posted in some random group that she wanted to go out to some cemetery. And I was like, can I come? And so we met at the cemetery. And as soon as we met, we hit it off. We just jived together. Everything flowed, how we were doing our experiments and stuff. And we haven't been apart since. We see each other like all the time.
Probably every day.
That's awesome. And it really does matter how you jive with a person, that energy flow that goes back and forth, and the communication and the way that you approach. And how do you approach investigations?
Well, I would say we're serious when we're doing our thing. We always say that there's like a process for us. We go in, we're a laughing team. We're always giggling, we're always laughing. But when it comes time to investigating, we put the serious hat on and we get the job done. When
So-
we're scared, we laugh. When we're
So yes, but
Oh,
it shifts. Well, and then laugh.
and then laugh while we're running.
Yeah. The laughing, I think, shifts the energy, right? Like it kind of grounds us and pulls us back into this now moment so we can process whatever it was that we just experienced.
Yes.
So I think like the laughing part is a big part of it, actually. Like,
Well, and another thing I think that may be a little bit different about us, besides being an all-female paranormal group, is we only deal with love and light. And we always, when we open our investigation, it's always we come with love and light. So love and light, we laugh. That's part of it.
Except dark has found us lately.
Dark has found its way in a little bit, but
so, but let's chat about that. Let's chat about that a little bit.
yes.
Because I'm probably stepping in a big pile of dung where I'm about to go, but it's love and light. The phrase love and light is one of those terms that has just gets to me overused in a way that's not necessarily what the original intention is. And to me, thoughts, words, and actions have to be in alignment. So sometimes I'm hearing that term love and light, and it just makes me cringe because you can feel the energy oozing off the person that's saying it, and it's not all in alignment. So I'm like,
I agree.
Yeah.
You know what? We
It's
are
intention.
style of investigating. We are very respectful. We are very gentle. We're not there to call out. We're not there to provoke. We don't do any of that. If spirit tells us to leave, 95% of the time we'll say we respect what you're saying, and we do leave.
Yeah.
The odd time
We push it.
We push it a little bit, but respectfully.
So do you feel that those spirits are also no different than a living person? They're trying to get to know you as well too. So they're going to push boundaries, and we can push back to a degree, but the more that we respect them, if we're going back to that same location, they get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
And so some level of relationship, if it's an intelligent spirit, can be built.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the places that we do go to numerous times, because we will investigate and then we will go back. Usually when we go back, we have spirit saying our full names.
Yeah,
Like,
I love
I
that.
had one investigation where they actually said like Leann Lori, and that's my middle name. Like, how would somebody know that, right? So
Mhm.
a lot of the times when we are investigating, we will get Mel, Leann, Gail.
So do you introduce yourself first when you go into a location? Hi, my name is, we're just here for.
Last time we didn't do that, and they knew our names before we didn't say our names at all, and they were calling us like crazy.
Okay, so that extends to an even bigger, concept. If it's energy and you have already been thinking about the location, so building up to the date, preparing for it, talking about it, all of those things, if we're all part of that collective consciousness of one, and that energy is already out there, they've already been receiving those thoughts and energy, right? So it just mind-blowing,
It never gets
deep
old.
dive rabbit hole.
It never gets old. Like when you're in an investigation and you hear Mel, there's a Mel, then Leann, okay, Gail, like it's all like that. Like, okay, that I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah,
we're catching all three of our, like, just it never gets old.
Yeah.
No, it's
No.
exciting. I'm like, what do you got? Where else are we gonna go? So Kendall, that's pretty funny that you asked me if I was drinking coffee from a pitcher. It's actually water, and it's a big mug for sure. It's probably not big enough, but I just did. Yeah, it's a big mug.
That's a big mug.
Well, that's
That
cool.
is a big mug.
That's a cool big mug.
It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool.
Anyhow.
Gail, if you are sort of like the newbie into that paranormal world, have you found the more that you're doing it, the more sensitive you are becoming, or the more open and having your own personal experiences, the more that you step into that world?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've been sort of with them for over a year, the same amount of time. But I'm always behind the camera though. So I'm seeing a different perspective. I'm almost like a little bit removed doing the camera because I'm just looking through the screen and I'm not always present.
But do you say that just to convince yourself that there is a little bit of a barrier between you and this? Like you're in the same place. I'm saying that with a lot of love and respect.
Yeah. Okay.
Gail. I think she feels comfortable there. Like that's her comfort, right?
I'm
She feels
comfortable.
safer back there. So
Yeah. But it's true though. You are seeing from a different perspective if you aren't right in that space, but that you're still going to have experiences from that place, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I do have experience. I mean, I've had spirits call my name, but a lot of times we're in the experience and we're thinking, oh, we didn't really get anything, and then once we go back and look at the film and the audio is really, you realize what actually was happening, that your brain almost didn't catch up to it at the time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That was a question I wanted to ask you as well, right? Is finding that evidence after the fact. Like you can't really say what you've caught in that moment when you're done, right?
Mhm.
Like you have to.
I think I'm the worst one, and I think we can all vouch for it. When we're in the moment of investigating, I'm always the one to say, guys, I don't think we caught anything. Like it's so quiet here. Like what's happening?
We should go
But
home
I'm like,
now.
I shouldn't say it. Maybe we should pack it up. And then it's always those videos that we go back and I get messages from Mel and Gail going, oh my God, Leann, you should see what we caught. But in the moment, I'm like, oh, nothing's happening.
What was that place that I made you come back? I made you come right away because it kept calling your name and weird things. Was that the museum?
Probably the museum.
That was like the Thunder Bay Museum.
Yes.
So was that a charity event or was that something different?
We've been a number of times, and last year we did run charity events there. So everyone paid, I think, $35.
Yep.
And then $5 of the ticket went back to the museum.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Then
So tell me about the Thunder Bay Museum.
It's very haunted.
Very active.
So is it the land, the artifacts, the building, all of the above?
All the
above.
above.
The people that come and their stuff that they drag along with them?
Yeah, the area. If you know, like the area of where this museum is too, you have a lake that's is that a river? Or a
The
lake?
river that runs right into Lake Superior is right there.
And there's
across the
been
street.
a ton of deaths on this river. You have the funeral home directly across the street. You have a homeless encampment right down the street where unfortunately people have passed. So it's just like this big layer of activity in one area. So it's hard to kind of say what it is, but definitely active.
Yeah.
We always refer back to the museum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's also a lot of artifacts there too. I mean, there were some artifacts from the Algoma ship,
Yes.
Which was a huge disaster in Lake Superior. We got quite a bit of activity around some of the chairs that were on that ship in particular. And then there's also some staff complaints and claims that they hear children running around and giggling in the corridors. So we actually caught some of the activity of children and EVPs of children in our investigations. So why there's children in there, I don't know. Do they come? Do they know that we're there? So spirits come where we're coming, like where we're, and they know, so they go there, or are they in the building and they're stuck? These are all really fascinating questions. I think that a lot of paranormal investigators want to have answers for.
Okay. So my ADHD brain just went to 18 different places. Get ready. So I think Lake Superior. So growing up, my dad used to say that Lake Superior never gives up its dead. So that's how I grew up, always hearing Lake Superior never gives up its dead. And with the amount of shipwrecks and everything, just all the deaths in and around it makes it that supercharged. And that it's huge. It's like, is it 1,300 miles all the way around?
Well, actually, it's the size of South Carolina. When you run one end to the next, it's South Carolina or Austin. That's how
I had to write it down. It's like 31,700. Yes, ma'am.
I have that info here too. Yeah.
And you just have a better brain in retaining that information.
Oh no, I
I'm like,
write it
There's
down.
notes.
I put the notes on Lake Superior itself because I have a hard time retaining too.
me too. It's age and hormones and all that stuff for
Mommy
me.
brain.
Yes. But so being along Lake Superior, and I think just anywhere along that the shoreline and going in is going to be that super charged as well too. Anything with children creeps me out. You hear a giggle or it sounds like a kid, my hackles just go straight up. Is it really a kid?
Mhm.
If it's a kid, is there a bully spirit that's keeping everybody here, not letting anybody go? Like you really do. Not survival mode, but you start having a plan A, B, C, and D for just in case whatever it is that you're encountering, right?
We had an experience at Trowbridge Falls. It had been just when I started hanging out with Leann, and we went to Trowbridge, and we're walking through, and we're like just chit-chatting, and then we're like, oh, I hear kids laughing. And so we went into the forest towards the laughing.
It was pitch black at the time.
And they kept laughing, and finally I'm like, those aren't kids. And I like ran to the river so I knew how to get out of the bush. And they're just like, yes, it is. And I'm like, no, it's not. No.
And is it just enticing you to keep going further away or separating you from the group, right?
We were getting all like discombobulated. We didn't even know where we were in the forest by the end of it.
Right. So our listeners are like international, all over the place. Can you tell them a little bit about Trowbridge Falls? So where it's located and a little bit about the history. I actually wrote Trowbridge Falls down as one of the things I would like you guys to talk about.
So it's on the other side of town. There is a campground there, and there is a river that runs through it. There's been many deaths in the river because people like go cliff jumping and have accidents. So it was on Creepy Canada. It was on there, and it was about two spirits that like rush people on the trail on the opposite side of the river. On the side of the river where you can camp, there's been stories about people in their cars and people banging on the windows
at 3 a.m.
At 3 a.m. So there's that.
The dog man, apparently there's some sort of apparition or energy that has picked up a dog and thrown it against a tree. That's another story.
I read about Undertaker. Somebody it called an undertaker that does knocking, and then the lady in white, which I don't understand why it's always the lady in white.
Always a lady in white.
Always a lady in white.
Why is she wearing a white dress? I have no clue.
Yeah, we don't know that one.
No, yeah. So I read something about a lady in white, which I don't understand. But I did a little bit of research about Lady in White, and it's supposed to represents a female that has had like tragic love loss or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know. I told my friends that when I come back, I want to be the lady that looks like the swamp hag in black.
I want to be that too.
So they know for sure it's me.
Lady in pajamas.
That's me, the lady in pajamas. Oh, look, there she is.
There's jammies.
If we have a choice, right? Comfy pants.
That would be
Yeah.
nice. We actually did go and look for this lady in white. We did go look. We sat there, looked. We caught no lady in white. We tried the banging of the car, we tried it all.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
So yeah, I don't
know. There was actually a murder up that way as well. Like there's so much that it could be, right? Yeah, there was a murder that happened up the road that hasn't been solved. Is that related to it?
And the history, because it's the land you don't even know. Yeah. Like all the history too.
Well, apparently there was artifacts that were unearthed not that long ago. And I think it was native artifacts. We don't know much information other than that. So it could have been a spot where Indigenous people camp. It's on
mining.
A river, so mining.
Women that came up for mining, like
yeah.
Are in all of those capacities. Like there's just the stories.
It is a very cool spot to go to, but the only thing that happened, so we went not that long ago with the trailer, so we were going to camp out there, but the thing is with investigating, I'm sure you can relate, investigating in Northwestern Ontario is a little bit different than investigating in other places because we're dealing with the bugs.
Or the cold.
But the mosquitoes have driven us out of the bush numerous times this year. Like literally, we're like, Gail's like, I'm done. I can't film. I'm done. We're leaving. We're like, okay, guess we're done. It was so bad. So bad.
Bug spray. It's like, oh.
Yeah, it was pretty hard this year to get out there and actually keep going with what we were doing last year. Just bugs alone. Like people don't think about that and like investigating at different locations through the world, right? What are your barriers? We have animals, we have cats, we have bears, we have mountain lions, we have mosquitoes. So we're dealing with all of those elements while we're trying to investigate outside, which is scarier to me than ghosts.
Yes, it is. I agree 100%. And rugged landscape. It's not necessarily like a smooth, easy city trail.
It's true
that you're going on, for sure. And when we were living up that way, having bears in the backyard or bears even on the schoolyard when my kids were going to school when we were up there was like a common thing that happened, right? Yeah. Just normal. So if you had tips or guidelines for people that were wanting to venture out in that Northwestern Ontario, what would your tips or guidelines be if they were just starting off investigating?
Never go alone.
And tell someone where you're going. Because like if we wouldn't have found, like if there was no river that I could hear, we might have been completely lost in that forest. And I don't even think we had flashlights. Those are important.
Probably like
you went without flashlights?
Yeah, I think we did.
I'm trying not to be judgy. That came out sounding judgy, and I'm sorry.
It's not dark that fast.
Oh,
sun's up, sun's down.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But the sun's up till like 10:30. So
but the weather changes so quickly around, like Lake Superior too, and people don't really understand that either. Like the wind picks up really quickly.
But that also cuts the amount of time we can investigate too outside, right? So we always have all these big plans with outdoor locations that we want to do, but we're having to base those locations off of months that we can do them. Like come November, your equipment would freeze.
Yeah.
Freezing.
Well, October. Really, it starts in October.
Yeah, it does.
It's pretty cold.
It's pretty cold. But we still go out in October.
It's cold today. It's only 13 degrees today.
It's cold. But I like it.
I prefer it a little bit. That was something my daughter said because I brought her up for the family wedding that we went to last weekend in the Seward. And she's like, it's chillier here. I think I need a sweater. And I'm like, I love it. Like this is comfy heaven for me. This for sure.
We actually just got back from Gettysburg. So we were up there for a bit and it was so hot. So it's just like different elements, right? That people don't think about. It was so hot that investigating was next to impossible now because of the heat. We were melting.
Yeah.
And did you have a good time?
Amazing time.
And I think it's all relative too, right? Like what the good is to each person is going to be a personal thing, right? Like I find that's probably not a good way to phrase that question. So did you have personal experiences that were memorable when you were there? Did you catch any evidence that felt memorable?
It was hilarious because we went to the Jenny Wade house and I was pushed upstairs and I was like, oh, okay, I should pay attention. So I'm trying to concentrate. Then we go down to where she was actually shot and we're doing the spirit box. And the spirit box must have said Jenny 7 times before we were like, I think it said Jenny. And then it screams, Jenny! And it's like, oh, we heard you that time.
That's like the little kid yelling mom outside the bathroom door.
Yeah.
But it's funny watching back because we're like, doo, doo, doo. Yeah. Jenny. Doo. Anybody here? Anyone here? Jenny. Jenny. Okay, Jenny's here. Yeah.
That's so funny. But that comes back to if we're so focused just on one thing, so we're hyper focused, we're going to be unaware of all the other stuff that's happening around us, right? So really having a open mind to the whole experience and go with the flow and what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. Were you was it just the three of you in that location, or were there other people at the same time?
Just us. We rented the
us.
whole
Oh,
thing.
that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
That was
good.
awesome. The history of it, even just, you don't catch paranormal stuff. The history
Yeah.
behind these buildings is just, it was overwhelming. Like for me, I love Civil War. I love history. So
Yeah.
being at actual Gettysburg that I grew up learning about, that to me was just so emotional. And I actually did. I was trying to manifest, let me see a spirit. Let me see a spirit in the battlefield. And sure enough, the three of us were out. Gail wasn't filming. Me and Mel were just out talking. And I turned around and I seen an apparition in the field.
Okay.
Amazing.
Okay, Leann. So same thing. You set that intention out to that collective consciousness that you were open, aware, ready, and receptive.
And there it was.
And then it responded, right?
Yep.
Like all of that stuff matters. And I feel too that they'll match our energy or intention. So if you come in shitey, that's kind of, you're going to get that harsh back at you, right? And I don't know. I kind of cringe when I see people going in that way. It's may not be so nice later for you.
Yeah, no. We don't like that either.
No, doesn't feel love and lighty.
No.
Right?
Can you please tell us your name? Thank you. Hi. Can I come in?
Sorry for bothering you. You can come on if you want. We can wait a minute.
Yeah, but again, when you talk to them in a respectful way and understanding that and understanding that they were people too, right?
And that's the approach that we always take. This is someone's soul, right? This
Yeah.
will be us one day.
And you don't
human.
Yeah, and you don't know their stories.
No.
Right.
That's what we're curious and wanting to know is what the backstories are. And just like us, we're all complicated and we all have layers of history to us. Those spirits will as well too. So we really don't know what we're triggering if we are poking around too much, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Lake Superior, Northern Shore.
Yeah.
Silver. It's
Island.
Thank you very much, ladies. Who wants to talk about it?
Who wants it?
Who wants it?
All three of you.
I'll talk about the cemetery.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to go first or second?
Go first.
Tell everybody where it is.
So Silver Islet is in a peninsula up off of Sleeping Giant. So anybody that knows Thunder Bay is known for the Sleeping Giant. So the Sleeping Giant is Ojibwe, I believe, folklore sort of a giant that protects the silver and the copper and the ore of the lake. So apparently this giant laid down, created the Sleeping Giant. So Silver Islet is on the very, very, very tip of it, right on the end. It used to be a silver mine in 18 something. What year was it, guys?
Hang on. Let me see if I wrote it down.
18. I don't remember. 1863.
Let's go with that.
1863 to 1869, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
We do know the history of it. It's just
that's okay.
Right now.
Around 1860.
In the 1860s, they found a vein of silver rising up through the rock. There was a mine that was built there. I think it was an operation for a few years. And what happened is anybody that knows Lake Superior knows how treacherous this lake is. It could be flatter than flat. And then the next minute you have a huge storm. So this mine was made sort of in the water. They used pumps to pump the water out of this mine. Something happened. The mine flooded and the mine shut down. So apparently the Silver Islet was abandoned. Was it abandoned? I'm not telling the story well.
Oh, no, you are.
You are doing brilliantly, Leann.
So I'm just trying to think. So I want to do Silver Islet justice because we love this place and we love the owners of the store. What had happened was I think they were waiting on a ship to come in to bring them supplies, correct? To pump the water out. That ship never arrived. So what had happened was the mine filled with water, and the mine was gone.
Mhm.
So the mine is still there, but it's actually part of Lake Superior now. So it's kind of interesting to see where it was, because it's not actually part of the land anymore. It's on
Wow, eh?
water.
Mhm.
But we were given the rights to go into this, the general store, which was there even when the mine was there. So the store is so old. And we were
Right.
the first paranormal group that was invited in to do an investigation of this general store. It was absolutely amazing. Again, just for the history itself, they actually had old miners' overalls that were stuck in the attic that we took out, and they're so short. Like, these men were very, it's actually shocking with how, we're a very short team. People can't see us right now. We are very short. Very short.
Okay, tell me about how short.
We're
I'm
short.
5 feet.
5 feet.
5'2". So I'm the monster of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, we're pretty short. But the overalls probably went, this man must have been 4'5".
Yeah.
But it still had the dirt on it. It had blood on it. It had rips on it. It was overall amazing. So we investigated there with the owners of the store, and we didn't catch much, to be honest with you. We thought it'd be very active because of the stories that were told, but we didn't. But overall, it was a wonderful experience.
Have you gone just once?
Yeah, so far we've gone.
So
one.
it could just be a get to know you. That's how I look at those kind of places, are a get to know you.
Yeah.
Them and you, right?
Yeah. But there's lots of ghost apparition stories. All the cottages along Silver Islet have been this original mining houses for the families there, and they've been passed down by generation by generation by generation,
Wow.
which is really interesting. So when we did get invited to the store, all the families from those cottages came to talk to us and tell us about the stories of their ancestors, which were really amazing. So of course they've seen a woman with white dress on, walking down the road, in the window, all that kind of thing. So it was,
and
really,
if it was a miner's wife, that plays into the tragic love story.
there must be, on top of the store, they actually have what's called a widow's walk. So when the miners were out mining, the ladies would go to the top on the roof, and they'd have this walking spot so they could see if their husband were coming home.
Right.
So it's really a lot of emotional feeling and a lot of stories.
So if you are energetically sensitive, just touching the wood beams or the floors, you would pick up that vibe, right?
Yeah.
You would pick up energy just being in those spaces. What
So-
was that like?
We were on the 3rd floor, and nobody told me about the widow watch thing. And I got up the stairs, and I went to turn, and I couldn't go. I'm like, I can't go there. I can't go. And they're looking at me like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I physically cannot go over there with you. So I had to run to get over there. And I was like, I don't know what is wrong with that spot. And then the owner comes and she tells me, oh, well, that's the ladder they went up. And I'm like, well, no. Well, that's what it was. It was very sad.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's hard to explain to people if they've not investigated what that energy is like when you're bumping up against something.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, because I know that I have said I've kind of taken a step back because I'm moving like squirrel on Red Bull, and I move back and apologize and then turn around and there's nothing there. But I've literally bumped and ricocheted off of things.
Mm-hmm.
So another interesting thing about this store is that the person who wrote Sherlock Holmes, what's his name?
Conan.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
He actually came to Thunder Bay on 2 occasions, and we met a little old lady at the tea room, and her great grandmother or grandmother maybe, actually did a seance in one of the cabins with him.
Shush.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And she shared her story about how they used to do the Ouija board and seances and stuff all the time in their cabin, and
Yeah.
It was amazing.
So the
I'm
paranormal
gonna-
investigating goes back so far, like with
Yeah.
the residents there.
And it had to have had such a rich history for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle to make the trek there to investigate, because he was so paramount at the beginning of the spiritualist movement, and really bringing that to the forefront and talking about it and writing about it and investigating it. So, and at a time like Gettysburg, at a time when masses of men were dying and people wanting that communication, to know that there was something else, there was a way to communicate, right? So to have Arthur Conan Doyle up there, I want to know more. There has to be more to those stories.
Well, I know one.
Tell me.
You know one.
So, and then I have a question, like from somebody that's listening, a listener question for you as well too.
I did some research on this one, and Conan, what is it? Conan
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
He was at the Lyceum Theater here, and he was doing one of his seances, and he was selling his books. And a lady approached him, and she said, "I want you to come out to." That's how he came out to Silver Island. She said, "My stepfather passed away there, and I would like for you to come with me, and I would like you to try to communicate with the spirit." So apparently she was a very persuasive woman. He agreed to go out with her. They went to the cemetery, and she told the story of her stepfather, who apparently lived there. He lived there, and he went a little bit crazy after the mine kind of fell apart, and he had some trouble. He was then telling people, "The spirits of the mine are calling me down to the mine to get that vein of silver that runs along the thing. So they're calling me down, and I want to go down." And then the next day they went to his house. They couldn't find him, and he was dead in the mine shaft. So the story goes that the miners of the mine called him down to get the silver. Apparently he still wanders, and people still see him wandering around.
So I'd be curious, because really Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's wife was the one that was supposedly a medium as well too, and initiated. So was it just him that came, or did his wife come as well too?
I don't believe the wife came, but it's interesting because a lot of the stories that I looked up on Lake Superior, they intertwine the stories, but names and people kind of switch it, right? So it's kind of hard to, what happened, what didn't happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
I did read something about her, but it doesn't talk about her going to Silver Island with him.
Right.
Or the Lyceum. It never makes mention of it in the articles. It doesn't mention her. Now, maybe she was there, but because she's a woman, they chose not to include her in the big to-do about it. But
he's pretty, I mean, that was a time period definitely where women could earn an income at a profession in becoming a medium, right? And I don't know, I kind of look at it as a positive thing, not necessarily that all of them were above board. Some of them were definitely charlatans at the time, but kudos to them for creating a hustle where they didn't have to lay on their backs for it. That's how I look at it, right? Like at that time period. So Amanda is just asking, does anyone on the team sense or feel energy as well too? It's kind of a hard thing. Like not everybody wants to hang a shingle on the door and say that they are, right? But it's not necessary that you have to hang a shingle on your door.
Yeah, I do.
I'm like looking at
Mel does, yeah.
I do.
And so again, that question, I have that question for you. The more that you do, the more that you experience. It's a muscle, right? It's a muscle that gets stronger and develops even more. So, how is that developing for you?
Well, actually, a little bit here and there, but then like 2 weeks ago, we went camping. We were at Rainbow Falls, which goes into Lake Superior. So our CO2 detector went off at midnight, and we're like all upset. And so we finally got to stop, and we slept. At 6 o'clock in the morning, it went off again. I'm like, we can't stay here. I'm like, we're going to wreck the time for the neighbors. So I went outside and I'm like trying to wake up. I look towards the road. There is a complete apparition of a woman with a ponytail running by. I was like, oh my God, I must be tired. Then I turned to the trailer to tell Gail, I'm like, Gail, it's not Gail there. The woman in white went by again. So I didn't say anything to Gail because I'm like, I don't want to get her upset. Everything's breaking right now. We got to get back to town. So we're driving home and I'm like, you know what? I saw an apparition at the campground. And then she proceeds to tell me that it's the anniversary of the day a woman went missing in 2007 at the same campground at the same time. So
She went running at 6 a.m. and was never seen again.
And you knew that before you went, and you didn't tell your wife that?
I didn't know.
She read it.
Okay, you read it afterwards.
Well, I went into the store twice, and I saw her, like they were advertising, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, there's a girl missing. I never thought anything of it.
Didn't tell me.
I didn't say anything because I thought it was like irrelevant.
Yeah.
But then when we left, we left, she was like, oh, I said, there's a girl missing. And Mel said, well, how long ago? I said, I don't know, a couple weeks. So, and then she looked it up and she was like, no, it was 2007. And she was jogging at 6 a.m. and never seen again.
So then, Mel, did that feel, it's such a weird thing because in our ego, we shouldn't, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? Itty bitty shitty thinking happens there in the Chihuahua brain. But that ego wants the validation. When we just have to be okay that that's our truthful experience, right? This was just a truthful experience. This is what I'm seeing, and we need to be okay with that. I think at the beginning, when we're building that muscle, having somebody go, hey, just so you know, this is here. So do you find your confidence growing along with that sensitivity?
I would say so, yeah. Like I'm more like, I'll be like, oh, my stomach hurts. And I'll be like, hey, to me now that's a sign. Often, it's negative energy. I will actually vomit. It's horrible.
No, I get it. I have the same stuff happen.
Okay, so I have to step back and I'll be like, hey, what is happening here? And then I'm getting more information now.
Yeah. And that's brilliant that, you're having enough experiences that you're building your intuitive language. So it's your own intuitive language. And as a team, especially if you are all so close and you're trusting one another, that they'll be able to understand what your intuitive language is and know how to best support you when you're in those spaces, right? And being part of a team, all of that is so important.
We never leave somebody behind. That's that's the thing. If somebody's down, we all go together. We never leave one behind.
Or push one in front. Who gets pushed in front?
Who's going in the back? We had another thing happen to us at the Palmer House. So we did that event. Dave Schrader was there. Who else? Shane Pittman
and Sarah
Lamasse. And we were in the basement, and the three of
us.
So
some people may not know where that place is. So
that is in Sauk Center, Minnesota. And we went there, and we went into the basement. And I literally felt like I was having a heart attack. Like I had every symptom of a heart attack, and I had to get out as I was still investigating.
As she's having a heart attack, she comes out of the cage having a heart attack, and then she goes, we should put a REM pod in there. I'm like, I don't know what you do. Like, do I support you dying, or do I put a REM pod? I'm like, okay, come on.
REM pod?
I put a REM pod in. Something's happening. But that was the first time I felt like as a team, we got each other's backs. Yeah. I'm like, you guys stay, you guys finish, something's happening. And they're like, nope, we all believe together.
And we don't have to go into necessarily religious belief systems, because I don't necessarily think that plays a part, but interesting that if we're all part of that collective consciousness of one, that we have those people in spirit and whatever our belief systems are personally that do hang out and watch over and guide and protect us, right, when we're working. So in those moments when it's super overwhelming, I'm like, you better intervene freaking now. Step in here and move this wherever it needs to go.
Yeah, because sometimes when paranormal activity is happening, we usually find it at the beginning of our investigations. Things just sort of get like out of control for like a section of time. Like be it 5 minutes, or Like sometimes we have so much equipment going off, literally, and I'm not exaggerating. We don't even know what to do with it. We're like, oh my God, the REM pod, the flashlight, and everything's coinciding with one to validate the next one. And we're like, can you turn that off? Can you step away from that?
Is that how come you call it Lucky Paranormal?
We're pretty lucky.
Yeah,
we are.
partially. It is named after, we had a pet bird and her name was Lucky.
Oh.
And she passed away right after we started our group when we were trying to develop a name. And so it's named after her, and our logo is the bird. And then
it just gets sweeter.
And then it's lucky because we met like randomly.
Yeah.
And we're lucky that we get to travel a lot and we get a lot of evidence. Like very often do we have evidence everywhere we go. Like very rarely do we come home with nothing.
Right.
So we're quite lucky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
It's a happy name. It's not a scary, it's just paranormal investigating doesn't have to be gloom and doom and scary and scary things. It's not about that, right? It's about souls. It's about that part about it. So we feel like Lucky's, when people hear our name, they're like, oh, Lucky Paranormal. Exactly what we are.
Yes.
Maple syrup sweet.
Yes, it is.
So awesome. Pie Island Lighthouse. Have you been there?
Never.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
And like,
is it on the list? Do you have a list of places that you want to go to?
Isle Royale is on our top of our list because we can catch a boat from Minnesota to Isle Royale. To get to Pie Island, you've got to find someone to take you because you can't kayak because the water's too dangerous.
Right. Do you know the story attached to it?
Not really. I believe there was a murder there.
So was it a murder? That's
the
thing.
Story where the lighthouse keeper, I think I know this one.
Yeah.
Was a heavy drinker.
Totally.
Right? Heavy drinker. He was found dead in the lighthouse.
Yep.
But there was 2 men, right, that were
found dead too.
Found dead as well.
Later.
So the story is they don't know if they had something to do with it. In
1908, so John Forbes was the lighthouse keeper, and he was there for 3 years, and he was found dead, but he was like an excessive drinker, which unfortunately it's in northwestern Ontario. Like, what else does everybody do in the winter? So there's that heavy drinking. And he was found in 3 years later, and then a few days later, those 2 men were found. So the newspaper reported it as a murder, but on the death registration, it says excessive drinking.
Maybe they all partook.
Maybe they all drank themselves.
Yeah.
Who knows if they're,
I don't know,
selling moonshine, whiskey, and rum running. If
what else
it's
in a lighthouse all by yourself. But if we could ever get to Pie Island,
I just didn't know what it was like. Like, I didn't know where in relation to you. I knew it was up in that area and what the history is. And then again, there is this whole thing too. Do you have to really be on the island in order? Can you have experiences on a shoreline close to it? Like, I've been places along the northern shore where stuff is happening, but it's not necessarily from that location where I'm currently at. It's from a surrounding area coming at us, right?
I don't think we've really investigated near the water like that, guys?
Just Silver Islet.
Silver Islet.
I know we want to go to the Peripheral Island as well, which is near it's near Silver Islet. And you have to take a boat to it as well. But Mel's cousin was there with his friends. He had a yacht, and they were on the island looking at the lighthouse. And one of the ladies there had an experience that she will not talk about, and she bawled her eyes out, and they had to leave right away. And then there's a couple other ghost stories there as well. So that's another one that's on my list.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because again, that just gets my ADHD brain in 18 different directions. What did they pick up something personal to her? Would it pick up something personal to you and trigger you in a personal way? Like if it affected her that way, that's usually something that's personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, I've also heard another friend said that they were using the golf cart because there's no driving. So once you get on the island, you're walking everywhere. And there's a
Right.
trail up to the lighthouse and where they used to stay with the house. And he said that the golf cart would just drain in the middle of it and they would have to walk the rest of the
Oh.
way. And then the next morning, the golf cart would be near the house. And they're like, who brought it to the house? What's going on? They also have a cemetery on that island as well, where family members have passed away there and they buried them on site, from what I understand. So it's a really interesting, anytime it's like an isolated location, a family's there for a long time. And
Yeah.
it's really an interesting story. So,
But definitely somewhere we would go. We would have to literally be boated in, dropped off, and just left.
Yeah.
But that's something we would do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love it.
With bug spray and extra batteries.
Oh my gosh,
Exactly.
the bug spray. With the hood done up so you only see like this.
Yeah.
That's usually how it is. Keep filming.
The things we do for our passions, right? It's not even
At all.
yeah, the things that we do. Mel, you were talking about a location as well too. I'm sorry, about a place that you wanted to go to next.
Isle Royale.
Where's that?
It's just south and up a little bit,
I
and you can
Grand
take
Marais?
no Grand Portage,
Grand Portage.
and you can take a boat there. But Mott Island, I don't know if you've heard the story of Mott Island.
No, please
It is
share.
It's like right on the top of it. So Mott Island, there was a man and a woman who were dropped off there, and they were supposed to be protecting the copper. Was it?
Yeah.
So they're supposed to be protecting the copper. They said, we'll come back in 6 weeks to bring you provisions. Nobody showed up. Winter came. The man started to starve, and he one day got out of bed and tried to get the knife away from his wife and thought she was a sheep, and he was going to skin her. So luckily he had passed out, and she got the knife away from him. A few days later, he passed away. And so she left him in the hut, and she went and built another hut. But she was so hungry that she went into the hut and she was thinking about making him into soup.
There's lots of stories about cannibalism along the Northern Shore.
Yeah.
A lot of cannibalism stories.
Well, if you're hungry.
I don't know. Back then, if you're stuck on a night, like, that would be horrifying.
But she was eventually rescued.
She was.
And she lived a very long life.
There's even a movie out
Yeah, Angelique.
about her. Angelique?
Angelique's Island, or just Angelique?
Angelique. I don't know.
Just a couple of years ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
We will all be Google searching that later.
Yeah, so they say if you go to Isle Royale, you can still see Charlie Mott, which was his name. You can still see him foraging around, looking for food.
That just feels sad.
That is sad.
Mm-hmm.
That's sad.
It's a sad story.
It is a sad story. Well, a lot of those stories. I mean, even the dude that was like an alcoholic and drank himself to death or murdered, whichever way, that's still sad too. All of those stories are sad. And that time period, like I can't imagine they didn't have bug spray. Like,
you imagine.
You'd really like you hope that you didn't have that sweet sweat smell, that you were more the stank smell and a lot of smoke, right? Like let's keep those mosquitoes at bay
all the time.
Yeah.
Just to keep the bugs away.
Well, and the black flies take a chunk right out of you. They don't. It's just a chunk, like a goose. They're awful.
Yeah. We're usually pretty bundled when we go. Well, no, Mel, sometimes you wear shorts a lot.
I do wear shorts everywhere.
Poor Mel on our legs.
Wow. What about the Prince Arthur Hotel?
So we have investigated there. We didn't really find anything well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. We slept there, Gail and I, 2 years ago on Halloween night. So we're thinking, it's not really haunted. Gail's not into it, right? So she's like, whatever. She's watching TV, and I'm just like, ghosts. So it was 2:00 in the morning, and all of a sudden the TV turns to snow, like in the 80s. And I'm like, oh.
When they shut the stations down.
Right. But it's
Yes.
they don't shut the stations down anymore. And then it
Yeah.
would come back on and then it went off again the same way. I'm like, I think I'm going home to bed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
we weren't a team though back
No,
then. Now we would.
yeah.
Oh my God.
yeah. So then
Get
we
it.
went back and we interviewed a couple people that worked there.
Yeah.
We did get to go in the basement, and there's a myth of tunnels underneath the city.
Tunnels.
They are legitimate.
The Al
Yeah.
Capone tunnels.
We saw the beginning of the tunnel.
Right.
And then up on the main road, there's a funeral home. And in the basement is where they used to make alcohol. And then there's the tunnel that goes all the way from there to the 2 hotels on the waterfront out to the water.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because way back then too, a lot of the hospitals were Catholic and Protestant, and they had tunnels too that went from churches. So like the Catholic Church would have tunnels that would go to the Catholic hospitals, that kind of stuff. But definitely the Al Capone tunnels would be interesting to get down into.
We
if
just
it's
wish we
possible.
can get in the tunnel. We would go in them. If we were invited
Yeah,
in
me
the
too.
tunnel, we would venture into the tunnel.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we did catch some stuff. We remember we were on the 4th floor. Remember we went up there and I said, I feel something in room 425. And all the doors were shut. And I said, I sensed the door opening. We looked down, we heard a door open, and the door was open. It was closed prior to me saying that. Went downstairs. We asked the people at the front desk, is anybody in room 425? Nobody's in there.
So why did you point at
No.
Mel for being sensitive and knowing things? And
You know what? I think the way that we sense things is a little different. You're energy, right? I don't know. Like every once in a while, I'm still trying to. I play with it, if not play, but like I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but knowing things is part of your intuition as well too, and it's the hardest one because we're so programmed to be able to Google search and find a validation within a couple of seconds, and sometimes with our intuition we don't get that validation, right? We just know because we know, and then we have to wait it out and
explain why. But the housekeepers do say that they've had things flying off their carts. They've had garbage cans thrown down the hallway. We didn't see that stuff, so
Right.
we don't know.
Except when Gail and I were staying in the room. Do you want to tell them about that? We were in the room at the Prince Arthur?
Yeah, so we were in the room one time and we got a knock at the door. And so we're thinking, well, we don't have anybody coming. Open the door, it's 2 cleaning ladies there. And they're like, oh, we heard that you're a ghost investigation group. And we're like, yes. She's like, well, this room is very haunted. And she said, when I have to clean this room, I am praying the whole time. And I just leave backwards praying and saying thank you and like leave me alone sort of deal.
So is it because of stories or a personal experience? Like, did she
For
hear
sure.
stories that wigged her out, or did she have personal experiences?
I think they do have personal experiences. And what she said to us was that there's a lot of suicide in that hotel. So a lot of people go to hotels for that reason. And then there's activity in them. So that could be one of the reasons why. But she said sometimes when she's vacuuming, the cord gets unplugged and she'll go back and plug it in and then it'll get unplugged again. And she's not pulling it. They smell smoke.
Cigar smoke.
So cigar smoke. So that's another one. We didn't smell it at the time, but a lot of people do smell that cigar smoke. And it's from one of the guys that used to live there and kind of
What's his name? Henry?
Harvey. And he owned it for many years.
Yeah.
Harvey.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's a love triangle story about some chefs. And
the love triangle stories.
You could hear him. Or they're
A
like,
lady in white.
Yeah, in
Lady in
white. Right? Lady in white downstairs. So we got that story as well. But yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I'm kind of stuck on the fact that you said that you shared that it's known for people to go to self-harm. Like that's sad in itself. But again, the layers of energy and what is it, and is it luring? Is there something that's putting those thoughts into the, like there's so many questions that I have. And I think too, or I've thought, will we ever really know all the answers? I don't think that we can. I think it's always, we're just always going to have more questions.
Yeah.
We often talk about this topic because, again, we're together every day. So we talk about everything, and we do talk about that. Like when I have a lot of people in my personal life, they'll come to me and ask me, like, what do you think this is? What do you think that is? And my answer is always the same. I'm more confused now that I do it than I was prior to when I was investigating. We all do. We all have so many questions about why, what, where, who are you? I don't think we'll ever find the answers to that, but if we can play a small piece in trying to find out what that is, like we're doing what we want to, like we're doing it, right? We're trying to figure it out, but I'm left with more questions than anything.
I know. And I want to experience all of it like a little kid, like that Christmas morning wonder. That's how I approach everything. Like that's how I approach all the investigations, like a little kid at Christmas. I'm excited to be there. I'm happy to be there. I'm grateful for all of it, but it's totally a sense of wonder, like open to the whole experience. And the bears,
that's the draw to it, right? That's the draw. It's the, what is that?
Yeah.
How can I hear you if you're not that, like just these weird, how am I hearing your voice if you're, where are you?
So with growing up where we did, my family, my brother saw what he perceives as unidentified flying object above the field in behind the house that we grew up in. There's definitely lots of stories about UFOs and lights around Lake Superior, over Lake Superior. And I found a story where it was actually talked about on the History Channel from, I think it's 1950s, 1960s. And it was part of the Blue Book Project where they researched it as well too, where a Scorpion jet was chasing after a blip on the radar, and ground control was guiding them, and the two blips, the UFO and the Scorpion jet locked in on each other. So there weren't two blips on the radar anymore. There was only one. And then they never recut. Then there was one blip that came back, like the screen shifted. Only one blip came back, which was the UFO, and then it disappeared and took off, and they never recovered the pilots or the jet.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
The mothers took it.
Right?
It's those aliens. They're more scary than ghosts.
Lake Superior. Weirdness, right?
Yes.
The weirdness. And so reports of UFOs, lights, blips, what happens? Yeah.
Well, twice it has been caught on tape. Gail and I were at my dad's camp, which is at Northern Lights Lake, which is about 2 hours west.
Yeah, like northwest.
2 hours west of Thunder Bay. And we were coming home, and it was late at night, and we normally don't do that. But then all of a sudden we saw an orange ball in the sky. And I'm like, do you see that? And we're like, yes. We stopped the car and we rolled down the windows so we can hear something. There's no noise. So we watched this ball go across the road, goes up, down, gone.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my.
And
So
there's a lot of people at Northern Lights Lake that have seen this glowing fireball, is what they call it.
A glowing fireball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've seen it a few times. We saw it at the cemetery too.
Oh yeah, at St. Pius Cemetery.
Yeah, we did.
We saw it there again. I think the most amazing one is the one that we saw with Andrea Peranto.
Oh, so I'm just gonna say that, thank you to all of the people that are listening to the show today. And if there's anybody that's just joining us, you are listening to Spirit Switchboard on United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. And we have with us today Lucky Paranormal, based out of Thunder Bay, Ontario. Gail, Leann, and Mel. So you were going to, I watched that video, and it's something.
It's
It
something.
is, yes.
And it was
Yeah.
funny because we were just standing outside and we saw.
Where were you, Mel? Sorry to interrupt you. Can you set?
in Michigan.
Okay.
Michigan.
And so we're outside and there's a group of people and I didn't know who Andrea Perront was.
Really?
Like I didn't know what she looked like. I've heard her name
Oh,
before.
yeah.
But then I'm like, who's she? And so we followed her and then she's going and she takes them all into the parking lot and we're like, what are we doing out here? Right? And then we started kind of making jokes.
So for people who don't know who she is, do you want to share?
She is the eldest daughter from the Conjuring house.
From the family that lived in the original Conjuring house.
Yeah. And so she came and brought us out and we were all in a circle and she started talking about how she communicates with aliens and she sings to them. And so my 10-year-old is kind of laughing. I'm like, that's kind of funny. Until she started singing with them and a ball of light comes shooting out of the ground and like explodes. And then I'm like, oh, it's not funny anymore. I'm like, this got real. I'm like,
That's true. We're all like, what?
Yeah.
This lady singing to the sky. And it was literally like this. La, 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 la. So we're all in this dark parking lot and we're like, what is happening?
But it's a vibration.
Yes. I think she was saying like, I love you. God, bring us home. Like, and then this fireball. Poof.
Yeah.
And the
shot down.
We weren't laughing anymore.
No.
Not that we were laughing at. We weren't laughing at her, but we're like, what is going on?
Can you share where people can watch that video? I mean, they can find it, I'm sure, through Andrea as well, too, but you have it on your website, right?
Yeah, on our website and on our YouTube channel, Lucky Paranormal.
Okay. Yeah, it's something. And she wrote books about that experience as well, too. I think it's called House of Light, House of Light and House of Darkness, House of Darkness, House of Light.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, something like that. Okay.
It was amazing.
So cool.
Yeah. That was at the Michigan Paracon last year.
Last year,
Which is happening in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Is it in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I always say I'm going to get there, but I haven't yet.
Oh, you should go. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so hard though. Like it took me 10 hours to get home last weekend because it was a long weekend, and I'm like,
Well, it's just right over the bridge, so.
Yeah. Well, as a kid, we used to call it the ditch. We're going across the ditch. We're just going across the ditch. Yeah. It was.
It's a good conference, definitely.
We would go over with my grandma to Ponderosa. Right?
Yum. Like a buffet.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, tell me again.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I think so. I mean, it was so long ago. But fun memories, right? It's fun memories. And that whole northern shore, you go up there and there's all kinds of crazy things. Bigfoot, skinwalkers, dogman, lots of Bigfoot stories up there.
This reminds me of Elliott Lake.
So my only history, well, I mean, I have friends that live there now, and I did a lot of sessions for people from there. But as a teenager, we used to do the cheerleading competitions in Elliott Lake. That's my Elliott Lake connection. Yeah. But tell me about Elliott Lake. Tell me where you went, what happened.
As soon as we rolled into town, it felt different.
You can feel it as you drive in.
Something's going on here. Then we learned about uranium they used. Mm-hmm. So they used the sludge from the uranium mine to make the basements of the houses. So we're like,
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so that's not very good. And then we went to the lake, and the first people we meet are saying, my house is haunted. There's a Sasquatch over there in the bush. I'm like, where are we?
UFOs up there in the forest. Yeah. You gotta go to the look. So it was just like this combo of everything. You had Bigfoot, you had paranormal, you had UFO sightings, you had everything. So what did we do? We hop in the bush and we're looking for Sasquatch.
Right before dark, without a flashlight.
So you
know. No flashlight. I'm gonna package you some extra and send them to you.
We're like, let's just do it.
Because it's spur of the moment. We're like, hey, this is exciting, and we get excited, and we don't always think about safety. So we did.
Well, we do now. Now we-
Right. And we
Now
are
we-
encouraging all listeners
Yes,
if
Use a
you're-
flashlight. Tell people where you're going.
That's why we say if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Right? Don't do that.
yes.
Don't.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yes.
Right.
Now we have our flashlights
Yes.
on us.
Headlamps.
Yeah,
Yes,
headlamps.
headlamp.
Yes.
Headlamps. It's like
Yeah.
wearing a backpack, so your hands are always free.
Yeah.
Headlamps.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. The Sasquatch thing is I think that it's even harder to catch evidence regarding a Sasquatch than it is, spirits. But the two stories always they seem to align with each other. Sasquatch and UFOs, like that just seems to go hand in hand for whatever.
Or they're interdimensional, right? So it's hard to catch that.
I don't know.
No, we don't know either.
Right? I don't
And
know if it is or isn't. I'm open to all the possibilities of it, right?
Would we go look for them again? For sure we would.
For sure we would.
Yeah.
My dad and stepmom, my stepmom is First Nations, and my dad and her live on one of the reserves outside of Sault Ste. Marie. And my dad has shared a couple of the Sasquatch sighting stories from the reserve there. And I had said to my dad that, do you think somebody could take me out there? And he's like, you really want to go out there, Carrie Lynn, where like there's an angry, hungry Sasquatch? And I'm like, yes. It would. He's like, you want to die? And I went, it would be epic. That would just that would be
I go out happy, right?
an epic death story.
Doing what I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that said, lightheartedly as well too. And you still have to be. We don't know enough about it, and we have to be mindful of what we are tapping into, mindful about our intention, because we don't understand it, and we have to be respectful, right? Respectful of the land, the resources, the history. And if Sasquatch is a tribe of beings that has been lost over time, right? We still need to be respectful of that and our interactions that way. That's kind of how I look at it.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking if I'm tromping around in the bush, they're going to hear me come in and be gone long before I would even catch up to them.
Oh, you would definitely hear us coming. Oh my God.
Whose idea was this?
That's how we sound.
Yeah. That's how we sound.
Some laughing.
But do you think they would be curious about us then? Like they would be curious about you, right? They would stop and watch you. Maybe they're watching you doing all of that and having their own laugh in it.
They could be.
Probably.
They probably are.
I would laugh at us. So
That's the best part. And that's when you know it's good. If
It's
you would laugh at yourself too, then you know that it's good.
we would laugh at ourselves.
We always laugh at ourselves.
Yeah. We're like, that's really bad. That's really dumb.
Mel, I saw a video of you using a pendulum. So do you guys want to talk about the tools that you use when you go on investigations? Ones that you feel in alignment with, ones that maybe you tried but aren't jiving with so much anymore? What do you...
We've tried the pendulum a few times. I always think I'm doing it wrong. So it's, we're not like, I think it's me somehow. And I'm like, we don't use it very often.
Right.
But I'm hoping to change that. But right now it's kind of like we just dabble with that every once in a while and then put it aside.
Right.
That's the thing. Tape recorder is my favorite. I will sit and tape record and talk all day. So that's my favorite.
Yeah, I would say mine too is a voice recorder. We
Yep.
catch a lot of EVPs. We are lucky with that.
Yeah.
We do catch a lot. The REM pod. I love my REM pod. Thing I don't really go for much anymore is the spirit box. Believe it or not, so we're having a little bit of, I don't know, it's not something I'm grabbing for as often as I did. I think when we first started, the EVP
Right.
definitely Definitely my favorite.
And I think like when you find something that's working for you, that's where you tend to stay. And it doesn't, I see that a lot with people who get interested into crystals and stuff like that. They're buying 1,000. People that get interested in starting paranormal and they think they have to have all of the equipment, and we really don't. Like we can keep it pretty old school and simple, and still be able to capture a lot of evidence, right? And most people's phones are like little mini computers now too. So the stuff that you can be using from your phone, we can't discredit. And I think we're looking for a personal experience, right? Like we're looking to have this personal experience. So the personal experiences we have to give more credit to.
But it's interesting because we do have most of the new equipment that's come out. We have it, but we don't go for it often. We're always hanging back with what we're comfortable with, right?
It's hard to swing a portal around when you're swatting at mosquitoes in the bush. Really,
it's hard,
right?
It's hard.
Who wants to swing around an $800 piece of equipment or more, right? Like, I think the location also would depict on what kind of stuff you're going to use. And
yeah, especially if you're having to trek in, the least amount of equipment possible, the better for us. I wear my little fanny pack thingy here, and I just put as much as I can in there, because you don't want to be lugging everything through the forest.
No. Or if you are along the shoreline, those waves can get really high. Like I don't think people are aware how high. There's this fabulous photographer that I follow on social media. It's 17 North Photography, and he films and photographs the surfers on Lake Superior on the waves, and it's amazing. I watch his videos just to listen to Lake Superior so I can fall asleep listening to it. That's how much I love Lake Superior. Like I just it is
right.
It is
scary.
It is scary. It's that adrenaline rush that comes along, and
not only scary, cold. Like
very
I don't think
cold.
people realize how cold, because it's deep. Like I don't even know if they found the bottom of it. Like it's that cold. Like if you fall out of your boat, even in the summer, you're good in there not very long before you're going to die of hypothermia.
Yeah, it's cold.
So that's why a lot of those ghost stories, we were talking about this earlier. There's one, what is his name? The white guy? The
Old Whitey.
Old Whitey. So apparently divers have gone down to this boat, to this wreckage.
The SS Kamloops.
And this man is still floating in the boiler room, I believe.
Yeah, the engine room.
In the engine room. And there's video actually of this man, and people call him Old Whitey. But people don't realize that when Lake Superior takes you and you're lost deep within it, you're going to be preserved. Like how many bodies are floating around down there?
A lot.
Lots.
A lot. And it comes right back to my dad telling us when we're growing up, Lake Superior never gives up its dead. Like that's what we grew up hearing. Then there was this one that I found as well too, Bannockburn, SS Bannockburn.
Yep.
That was 1902. So I think there was over 20 people. Was that right?
Yeah.
Over 20 people that died in that, and it was never discovered.
No.
Is that the one that they call the Flying Dutchman?
Yes. And so like I read an article where it was someone saw it here, someone saw it there, someone saw it there, someone saw it there, but it was nowhere to be found.
So is it an omen? Is the ghost the Flying Dutchman, the Bannockburn, an omen as well too? Like
because no one knows where exactly it went down. They don't know where the site is. But there is a story that I did catch online about off one of the islands. I guess, where was it? Near Sault Ste. Marie. Somebody found a piece of driftwood, and somebody had scratched in it Bannockburn, whatever, in human blood. So now the story is, yes, is this where it went? Did somebody survive it?
And they found one single life jacket all tied up like somebody had slipped out of it.
Yes.
Right.
Those were the only things they found.
I mean, safety wasn't really a
No.
a thing in the early 1900s, right? Even look at all those theaters, they would just cram everybody in there with no thought about fire. And we have all of those
Yeah.
hauntings now from those buildings, right? And people dying from fire. So same with those ships. But it's the storms with Lake Superior and how quickly the weather changes and how savage those storms can be.
Mhm.
I don't
For
think
sure.
people I don't think people really understand.
Well, they have
fire.
what's called is a rogue wave. Now they're saying that that's doing the research in it. They say that that's how a lot of the Edmund Fitzgerald apparently was taken down by this massive rogue wave. That's like 24 feet tall. And they're saying that that's what takes these boats out. And what do they call it? Sister?
The Three Sisters.
The Three Sisters.
So you get like a smaller wave, and then you get like it goes back too fast and picks up another wave, and then by the time that one goes back, it just like
the
crashes.
rogue wave
It's gone.
Has built.
They say that's what happened to all of these shipwrecks, and I believe there's over 6,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm aware of
6,000
too.
shipwrecks that they have found. Like how many more are there on that lake with bodies still in it?
Mm.
If you're going right to the bottom, you're pretty preserved down there. It's crazy.
Lots of people to talk to, lots of EVPs to catch along the shores.
I was scared to go on a boat.
No,
Get the voice recorder.
I wouldn't, but I would stand along the shoreline and definitely sing, and I was thinking about that when I was watching the video with Andrea Parent. I had a couple of frustrating days over the last few months, and I was outside with a flashlight flashing it up into the sky and took a quick video and sent it to my friends, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm flashing to the aliens because I'm frustrated. Like, why haven't they come to get me yet? I am done. I'm feeling tired. I'm ready."
Take me to the mothership.
And I'm like, I'm in the wrong spot. I need to be in Northern Ontario to be singing and seeing. And I need to be mindful of what my intention is that I'm putting out there too, because I could be
We always say this.
inviting something to happen, right? We clear, cancel, delete that thought.
Yeah.
Clear,
Delete.
cancel until I'm ready, till I'm really ready.
We always talk about manifesting. This group is all about manifesting. Manifest. And you know what? That works.
Well, especially if you're doing it as a collective, right?
It's working.
As a collective. So where can people find you? I just wanted to make sure. And do you have any charity events? Tell me about some of those charity events that you do.
We don't have any charity event booked because we did the one a week and a half ago at Howl at the Moon, which is a dry bar in Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
So he's struggling to stay afloat because he doesn't sell alcohol. He just sells pop and cake. So he's been struggling. So we decided to hold an event there, and we gave him all the proceeds from that event.
Oh, that's lovely.
So we're hoping to do a couple more of those.
And that's really a thing that's coming up, like the dry bars, right? Like a place for people to go who aren't drinking and hang out and still have fun and do their own thing.
Yeah.
But being able to give back for us is it means more to us than anything.
Yeah.
Being able to give back to the community. We are a paranormal group. I think people have a lot of stigma behind paranormal groups, but we're trying to break that. We can do this and raise money and put that money towards a good cause. We did do the museum. So we did give money back to the museum. We're thinking about doing one, maybe library. Like there's so many places that we have stormed up in our brains with what we want to do and where we want to go. Again, it's just finding the time.
Oh, well,
It's
yeah,
fun.
there's that. But I think too, the approach in educating people as you're doing it is really important as well too. And the intention in helping, whether, so that's something that I haven't really asked. Is it helping the spirits that may be asking for help as well too? Not just the living people?
Yes, actually, we did an investigation at our favorite place in Thunder Bay. Is called St. Pius Cemetery. So there's only wooden crosses left and maybe a few gravestones. And they had a church there, and they burnt it down because people were doing unchristian rituals in the church.
Oh,
So to get rid of that happening, They burnt it down. So we often go there, and there's a barbed wire fence around the grave area. We will not go past that. Whatever's in that bush, I'm not touching.
Well, it has red eyes. That we do know.
We did see red eyes, but we went there one time and we had the spirit box, and we're like, "Is anybody here?" And it said Steve, and we're like, "Steve?" And then we're like, "Who's here?" "Steve, Steve." And then I got information that Steve did something bad, and then the spirit box says, "Steve, raper, yeah."
Oh,
And I
dear.
said, okay. I said, "You've done bad things." I said, "But you can go to heaven. It's okay. You can go be with your family." And then you hear a girl's voice go, "I'm in the back, Steve." And then we call Steve again, and Steve was gone. He had crossed. So that's one of my most memorable things.
Yeah. Interesting, right?
Yes.
I know.
Place.
It's beautiful. Beautifully creepy.
Gail, do you have a memorable experience that stands out, or one that you feel most that you think back about?
I think there's a lot actually that I think back about. There's so many. I think one of them ones was at the Palmer house when a spirit clearly said my name, and I wasn't expecting that. So that one I tend to tell about. But,
Right.
We've gone, like, every weekend we're doing investigations, and we have great time every time.
I love going to the cemeteries too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my investigation partner, my friend Jody, her and I had set the intention that this summer we were going to get to as many pioneer cemeteries that we could get to this summer, and then talk about it in the fall. And we've had a couple of really intense experiences at a few of these pioneer cemeteries. So, I mean, people need to realize, like, you can still investigate during the day. It doesn't have to be at 3 a.m. It doesn't have to be really dark out. I mean, depending on the equipment that you're wanting to use, you can still investigate during the day, because the spirits are going to be there.
Yeah.
Regardless of the time. Nighttime adds a different scare factor to it, though.
Yeah.
By 11 o'clock, we're usually pretty done.
Yeah.
I'm the same, though, right?
Oh my God.
My dogs,
pack it up.
yeah, my dogs wake up at 5:30. They don't know to sleep in. They don't know to sleep in. Are there things that scare you?
Anybody want to take it? For me, animals.
Yeah.
Animals in the forest. That's it. Wolf. That's horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Scary. I'm not really scared very often yet.
No.
I'm waiting. It'll happen, I'm sure. But
I'm scared of stairs that have no risers, like the graded steps that you can see through.
And somebody grab your foot.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
I don't like those.
I never thought about that. Oh man.
Yeah.
I'd be looking
My hands get sweaty thinking about it.
If I have to say something that scares me, that would be clowns.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you did very well at the Clown Hotel.
I did go.
Did you go to the Clown Hotel?
We did. We investigated it.
Yep.
Interesting.
You handled it well.
I threw up.
Well, because of the room, but like when you went in the
that was very transparent of you. Thank you.
That was a weird place.
Yeah, we went live, and all of a sudden my stomach went, and I started gagging, and I'm trying to run out, and Gail's still filming me. I'm like, "What are you doing?" This happens.
Wow.
That's funny. That was funny.
Capture all the evidence.
All you hear is
That's funny. That sounds like a family, right? That's how family would do
It's
it.
funny.
Yeah.
was funny.
Yeah. I would love to okay, Centennial Park. That was one of the other places that I had found. Have you guys gone in and around there?
But not very thoroughly.
No.
We've touched on it, but not a whole lot.
We went in the middle of winter.
Problem one.
So main problem. One in the middle of
Right.
winter. So it was, you know, the snowflakes are falling. So you don't know if it's an orb, if it's a movement of something, because it's snowing. The snow crystallizes.
And the moisture will.
Yeah. The equipment wasn't working well. It was probably -40.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you to tell people, again, because our listeners are international, right? How cold it actually gets in Thunder Bay.
Oh,
Pretty cold.
up to -40 something with the wind Celsius. So I don't know. Is it -32? How I don't know the American Fahrenheit.
But I think the only way to describe it is if you go outside and you're investigating, your equipment would freeze, done, broken.
Yeah.
Like that's how cold it is.
Or
Yeah.
you go outside and it hurts to breathe.
When you feel it in your chest.
Yeah.
In the bones.
Yeah. And your nose sticks together.
Yeah.
When your nose sticks together, you know that's cold. It's the sound. Like when the snow sounds like styrofoam.
Yep.
It sounds like crunching styrofoam.
Yeah.
But I still like it. Like I would still rather that than heat.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we still all
agree.
live here, so
We just complain about it. And then live to see another winter.
Right?
Mhm.
Have you had anything follow you home?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And how did you handle that? Where were you? Do you want to talk about it? We don't have to talk about it.
Mine was at the museum. And remember how we were talking about the children? I'm a mother of 3. So when I went in, I was communicating, I believe, with a young boy. And I used the wrong wording. And I said, little boy, if you're here, I'm a mom. Come to me. And I believe that's when I called him to me, and he stayed with me, and he didn't leave me. So again, when I try to explain to people what an attachment looks like, it isn't about things floating around your house and things falling down. I had an emotional attachment
Yeah.
to this little boy, and I felt the depression. I believe that I was taking on his feelings, and that stayed with me probably for a good week. I had to reach out to others in the community, in the paranormal community, that know how to do
Clearing.
smudging and the clearing stuff. Thank God I had help, and I was able to get rid of it. But it was
and kudos to you for recognizing that it was an issue and being proactive and feeling comfortable to reach out for support, and that there was the support for you.
And support. Thank God he was able to walk me through that, because like the depression, the anxiety, I'm not one to feel that stuff on, like, sometimes, but not on that level. Like when I was unable to talk to my children, I was unable to talk to my husband. I couldn't talk to my mom and my dad because I wanted nothing to do with anybody. Everybody bugged me. I hated everybody. Like it. Yeah.
And a learning lesson for you, right? A huge learning lesson.
Wording.
And that you can educate other people in.
And we do touch on this a lot when we do run public events for people here, and we do try to educate them on the proper use of like wording, right? It's all about your wording. Watch what you, like we said earlier, watch what you're wishing for, watch what you're calling.
Intentions. Yeah.
I called it home and it came.
I
won't say that again. But you both had attachments as well. Did you?
Yeah, Gail had one at Silver Islet.
Yeah, when we went to the Silver Islet Cemetery, we had got an EVP of a man's name named John, and I didn't know I had an attachment. And I was at an event that we hosted at a library, and there was a medium there, and she looked at me and she said, "You have an attachment." And it's a man. And I said, "Oh, that must be John." And she's like, "Well, he's nice. He just wants to follow you because he likes you." Like it wasn't an evil thing. He was just sort of like being near me.
Right.
And but I didn't get any of the emotional things. I didn't even know it was happening. So.
And did the medium help you?
She did. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to say that just irritates me when they go, "Hey, you got this," and then they walk away. What is that? Deal with it.
She said that she took them, and so I said okay, and that was it. That's my story. But yeah,
Interesting.
And mine happened at the Hermitage in
Oh.
Ancaster.
Mm.
Yes, so I went with my psychic
The
friend.
Hermitage is a pretty interesting place because I've taken groups there a number of times. It's interesting.
Yes, so I completely forgot about the sacrificing part, and I was like, "Oh, it's beautiful there. Let's go investigate." So we go with my psychic friend Kate, and we're walking around, and then I go behind the wall, and then all of a sudden, the barfing starts. I'm like, "Oh, there's something here," and then I'm like, "Is there some kind of rituals here?" And I'm asking questions and stuff. And then I proceeded to get sick. But then I came out from there, and we sat down, and we did an EVP, and we were making fun because something about the War of 1812, and we had forgotten that the war actually happened there, and we had been in Gettysburg, so we were kind of making fun of the War of 1812. And so we asked, "Are you from the War of 1812?" And then it says, "I sure was."
Yeah.
And then it proceeds to say, "It's like heaven, doom." Yep, that was the EVP we caught. So we go out, Kate's like,
We're done.
We gotta go. So we're like, okay, we're done. So by the time we walk up to the top of the trail, apparently I had energy attaching to me as we were going. So she's like, "You got to smudge," and I don't think I've smudged that much in my life. I was like just smoking. I'm like, whoa,
Big cloud of smoke.
yeah,
Big plume.
it was.
I make sure that we clear everybody off in the parking lot before we leave when we've been there as well too. Did you see the red eyes in the trees? Like, did you see the red glowing eyes?
No, we were there in the day. It was quite late.
Mhm.
We didn't stay that long. After that cackling EVP, we were like, we're out.
We're done.
Yeah.
That's not love and light.
Yeah, we've caught some cackling EVPs as well too, and I take people at night, but the red eyes show up in the trees as well.
Is it at the back? Do you catch them at the back?
Mhm.
That's where we were.
That's
That's
where
where
we
we were.
Yeah, at the back.
But Kate said you guys are stirring some stuff up.
Yeah.
That's how it all started. You guys are stirring some stuff up. We're like,
And then we made a joke that we're not making soup. And then it went downhill after that. The wind just picked up like crazy, and we're like, oh.
Yeah.
He didn't find that funny.
No.
Right. And so again, even if you're thinking that you're being funny, it can still be triggering, right? So
Mhm.
being mindful, the tone and intention
Yeah.
in the way that we are posing the questions and how we are approaching things.
Yeah, that's probably the most scariest EVP we've ever caught. Like, it was very, very upsetting to listen to afterwards and decipher what that spirit was saying. And then when we caught on to it and really listened to it, it was something that I probably will never forget, because it's just very, really disturbing what that spirit said, and that we were sitting there kind of not thinking anything of it really until after. They're like, "Oh, whoa."
Yeah, and making sure that I'm always prepared, like that it's potentially something that's going to be growly or icky.
Yeah.
You know, I'm prepared for that. I'm just prepared for that. But it still shocks you when you're reviewing your evidence and then it's right there in your face, right? When you didn't have it happen in real time for you to pick up on.
Just the tone of it was just, you can tell it just was not love and light.
Tom is just sharing, I used to clean the Workers Museum in Hamilton. It's haunted. The whole Hamilton area.
Definitely.
We just got back from there
Hamilton,
not that long ago.
it's has a lot of rich history to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For sure, it's very haunted.
Yeah.
But someone recently shared that there's a dog man in Guelph, so I'm currently trying to find more stories about that. Because I mean, definitely had stuff happen up north, right? Again, like towards Batchewana and up that area.
Mhm.
shapeshifter kind of stuff, and definitely those stories along there. But I didn't realize, it wasn't necessarily looking or open to the idea that it would be in the Guelph area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the candy factory by the tracks. Where? I'm sorry, it's saying Facebook user on our chat, so I'm not sure where the candy factory by the tracks.
In Thunder Bay?
Hamilton?
Hamilton. I don't
I'm
know.
not sure.
We don't know.
We don't have a candy
a
factory.
store. We wish we did, but we don't have.
Right? Oh, in Hamilton. And that's funny. When I was talking to Mel earlier, I'm the snack person. I always bring snacks when we investigate. So everybody knows that I'm the snack person, because a lot of times I'm tuning in and doing mediumship and channeling when we're on investigations as well too. And I'm starving. Like, my energy gets zapped. So I bring snacks. So I'm always asking people if they bring snacks on their investigations and what snacks you bring. But
We don't yet, but we're going to start.
Yeah, we are.
And we don't bring snacks.
What kind of snacks do you bring?
oh, usually anything Reese, licorice,
Mm.
nothing healthy.
I
Protein.
don't think we would either.
No.
Right? Chips and chocolate.
Yeah. Sweet,
Right,
salty.
Paul.
Sweet, salty. Lots of water though for grounding, for sure.
Mm.
Like, definitely lots of water. I appreciate you guys coming on the show today. Thank you very much. Like,
Thanks for having us.
yeah, this was great. And just one more time, share with everybody what your YouTube channel is and your web address.
Yeah, so we're Lucky Paranormal, and our website is www.luckyparanormal.com. We have the YouTube channel, and we also have a Facebook group as well, Lucky Paranormal.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you to all the listeners and the comments. We appreciate you being here. And a big shout out to the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM, New Orleans. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Spirit Switchboard with host Carrie Lynn Shellhorn on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3, New Orleans.